Hey YouTube, this is Nashtaters. Welcome back to the last episode of 2020. So today is going to be New Year's Eve. Tomorrow's obviously going to be 2021. So to end the year right, I want to just talk about the very last thing most likely we'll be farming before the New Year's brings us brand new events to farm. On top of it, I want to wish everybody a happy New Year's because I think most of us cannot wait to get out of 2020 because it has been a very odd and perhaps tough year for a lot of us. So today I really want to just talk about the equipment, which is going to be obviously that coat that we're trying to farm from killing Shiva over and over again. But let's begin the video as always. When we ever get free summons, where they free summons? 2020 has been pretty rough, and I think many of us can't wait for it to be over. I hope 2021 brings us brand new things, and perhaps things that we're all looking forward to. Alright, so this summons we got effectively 9 things that's repeated on this account, so they all got turned into medals. Now I actually hope they do change and add more things to the medal shop as well, especially for the lower tiers, because essentially most of it is just garbage. So I really want to actually talk about this jacket, because this jacket, well, as many of you guys are trying to do, farming it up, and I think it's a good jacket, but I think a little bit confused. Now, first off, the name is a little bit off. Just kind of weird name, right? Fides Lacerna. But I guess it's a cool name because it actually has a name instead of just Mithril Helm. So it's one of those items that is named. Now, as you can see, I taught you last time you can just simply play around with this and you can kind of see what your maximum is in terms of the bonus from when you plus it. So when you do max it, the jump from 4 to 5, as you can see, is double. And personally, I would like to see a 10 here, but that perhaps will make it a UR quality item. So it looks like the MR quality is going to give us a +8, and the one below that, SR, will get about a +6. It looks like UR most likely will give you a +10. Now let's talk a little bit about this outfit. First off, I can't wait for the day that they will give us skins, because imagine putting this bad boy on one of your units and the animation of it will actually show in the combat field. I think that will look pretty cool, right? Especially if you have the option to put the hood on. Imagine putting this on, say, little Leela. Maybe her little ears will stick out. I think that would be a very neat concept. Now, generally speaking, people go after things that make sense and spend time farming things because it makes sense. To me, this item sort of makes sense, but then has a little bit of hesitancy in terms of making it really stand out. First off, the first thing that stands out obviously is critical evasion. And critical evasion ultimately means you have the percentage of taking hits, and when you're taking those hits, the chance of you getting critical hits is going to be decreased. Next thing obviously is going to be determined whether or not we choose between HP, defense, and spirit. In this case, most likely this specific armor can be used for against magic, because critical evasion is for both, or you're really actually targeting slash, in which case does it really make sense. Now when we look at the condition to equip, we notice right away that is generally speaking for essentially all the characters in this game, that tends to like to stand in the background, right? Maybe besides Knight of Grinchald, which obviously is Rain, he likes to stand in the forefront, most likely as a tank of some sort. But if you notice, the rest are essentially all the different units that likes to stand in the background. So here's the thing. Units that like to stand in the background, generally speaking, tend to be magic casters, or supporting units, or range attacking units. So they, generally speaking, do not like to engage in melee attack range, right? And for the most part in RPGs, and perhaps you can even say in real life, that makes perfect sense. If I'm a bowman and my goal is to shoot people down before they actually get close to me, I would like to send in the infantry to kind of engage in combat. And then of course use the bowman to kind of pick people off from a distance. Just like in modern warfare, if I'm a sniper, most likely I do not want to engage with people in terms of, close quarter combat or hand-to-hand combat, even though I'm trained to do so, right? Chances are your goal is to try to take out as many people as possible from a long distance. And I think that's where this code feel like a little bit off. And I know people might say, hey, well, even range units need to have nice gear, nice stats. And I agree with that. But let's put it in perspective. If I'm going to be targeting Spirit, which will be, I believe, 14 or 12, something like that, then the slash resistance doesn't really come into play all that often, because you don't really need to get into distance of melee range attack very often. And if enemies are within range, chances are you haven't killed those units anyways, and there might be a decent chance you might get blown away. Now if you chose defense, I believe it's only 8, and personally I feel like that's where it kind of fell off a little bit. If I want to slap this bad boy on one of my units that likes to kind of somewhat get in melee range, then ideally I'll probably want to go with defense against enemies who are melee. Chances are most units who are in melee are most likely not magic users, because they will be like to standing in their background as well. So I think they perhaps should have maybe gave 10 defense. Therefore I would gladly easily recommend a shield, because now that works perfectly well with slash resistance and of course critical evasion. But we have already said that critical evasion is the X factor here. Ideally, you're getting this coat most likely for the reason of the crit evade, and you'd be slapping this bad boy on rain or any other unit that you feel like should be tanking for you somewhat, or just have a very good survivabilities in order to take a couple of hits and still truck it on with your range attacks and your casting. Now if you decide to go with HP, there are perhaps not that many units that really utilizes high HP. I understand Drain Force is definitely one of those abilities that do like to use HP, but I believe there are not many units that, well actually, let me take that back. Ninja will like to use this, so this could be considered as a Drain Force to give some survivability, and of course that will be one way to go. But everywhere I looked online, every website recommended that you actually go with Spirit, surprisingly, because you do get the most number out of it, and subsequently you can you can supplement defense from somewhere else, whether it be accessories or weapons or whatever. I feel like I just wanted to point this out to the community, because to me, I feel like this isn't a well-designed, armor, right? I think maybe even some of the TMRs are actually better, although this by far has one of the highest critical evasion in the game, I believe. So personally, I'll probably go with the Spirit route just because it makes sense to me. Magical range, attacking magical range, you don't want to die. And I think the slash attack resistance essentially is a bonus. So which leads me to the next point. If you are not really caring too much about the slash resistance, you probably don't even need a +5, right? Because ultimately getting a +5 is essentially opening up this bonus. The rest of the bonuses in terms of stats are always going to be there. And most likely you're going to be supplementing a lot of slash resistance from your vision card, your espers, and so the 8% might make a difference in some situations. It most likely will not make a big difference, considering that you're going to be farming quite a bit. And for those folks who are actually already auto farming brutal difficulty, obviously you're probably already geared as is, so this will just be sort of another bonus material added to your account. For the majority of us who perhaps really don't care too much about this, my suggestion is, if you don't really feel like spending a lot of time, going for a +2 or maybe even just a +4 might be even sufficient. See, I don't know. Either way, it's up to you obviously, but I always like to make videos that point out something perhaps isn't too obvious to people. And I know there's a lot of number crunchers out there who take this kind of stuff into high consideration in terms of min-maxing and trying to get the best out of every equipment, cards, and espers, and try to be successful as best as they can. Hopefully I make these videos to be somewhat informative for people to make perhaps a better decision for themselves. We've been talking about whether or not to +5, +2, or even not plussing equipment at all. And I think more and more people are learning that some equipment are definitely worth plussing 5, such as weapons, because you get the most essentially potential drawn out of them. But for a lot of armors, they don't really make too much of a difference, right? For example, an iron plate, which give you +6 slash resistance with no negative feedbacks, or excuse me, negative feedbacks. Thinking eBay here. No negative drawbacks compared to the golden armor, which has tons of negatives. Perhaps that would have been actually the better way to go. All right, I hope that you guys find this interesting. I wish you guys a happy New Year's. Until next time, I'll see you guys New Year's, which will be 2021, right? That'll be the next time I see you guys. And I'll be doing my stream tomorrow night, which will be effectively the very first stream of 2021. Take care of yourself, all your loved ones. Nashtaters and his family out here. Peace.